It's a lie. Salt isn't the whole story behind high blood pressure. You've heard it 1,000 times. Put down the salt shaker. Salt causes high blood pressure. Doctors say it. The news says it. It's practically printed on every bag of chips. But here's what almost nobody tells you. For the majority of people with high blood pressure, salt is not the main cause. Now, before you think I'm about to tell you to eat more salt, I'm not. This isn't a contrarian salt is actually fine video. The truth is more interesting and more useful than either of those takes. Blood pressure is controlled by a remarkably complex system, involving your kidneys, your hormones, your blood vessels, your nervous system, and yes, your diet. And when that system goes wrong, pointing the finger only at salt means millions of people are missing the bigger picture. So today, we're going to break down the real science of blood pressure. What it actually is, how your body controls it, and why the just eat less salt message is a massive oversimplification. 2. What is blood pressure? Really? Let's start with the basics because most people don't actually know what blood pressure is. They just know it's a number their doctor frowns at. Blood pressure is the force your blood exerts against the walls of your arteries as your heart pumps. It's measured in 2 numbers. Systolic pressure, the force when your heart beats, and diastolic pressure, the force when your heart rests between beats. A normal reading is around 120/80. High blood pressure or hypertension is generally defined as 130/80 or above. Now, what actually determines how high that pressure is? Think of it like water flowing through a hose. Pressure depends on 3 things: how hard the pump is working, how much fluid is in the hose, and how narrow or stiff the hose is. In your body, that translates to your heart's output, your blood volume, and your blood vessel resistance. Salt, or more specifically sodium, mainly influences blood volume. But your vessels and your heart output are controlled by a whole orchestra of other systems. 3. The hormone system nobody talks about. Here's where it gets really interesting. Your body has a built-in blood pressure management system called the RAAS, the Renin-Angiotensin-Aldosterone System. Say that 3 times fast. Here's how it works. When your kidneys sense that blood pressure or blood volume is dropping, they release an enzyme called renin. Renin triggers a chain reaction that produces a hormone called angiotensin II. And angiotensin II does 2 powerful things. It constricts your blood vessels, squeezing them tighter, and it signals your adrenal glands to release aldosterone, a hormone that tells your kidneys to hold on to sodium and water. The result? More fluid, tighter vessels, higher pressure. This system is so powerful that when it's dysregulated, even slightly, blood pressure can rise significantly, regardless of how much salt you eat. In fact, some of the most effective blood pressure medications ever developed, ACE inhibitors and ARBs, work specifically by blocking parts of this hormone system, not by reducing sodium intake. That tells you something important about where the real levers are. 4. Your kidneys are the real gatekeepers. Your kidneys are the unsung heroes and villains of blood pressure regulation. Every day, your kidneys filter about 180 liters of blood. And one of their most critical jobs is deciding how much sodium to excrete versus how much to keep. That balance directly controls your blood volume, which directly controls your blood pressure. In a perfectly healthy person with healthy kidneys, here's what happens when you eat a salty meal. Sodium rises in the blood, the kidneys sense this, and they simply excrete the extra sodium in your urine. Pressure stays stable. But in some people, due to genetics, aging, diabetes, obesity, or chronic kidney disease, the kidneys become less efficient at excreting sodium. So instead of flushing it out, they hold on to it, raising blood volume, raising pressure. This is the concept of salt sensitivity, and it's crucial. Research suggests only about 25 to 50% of people with hypertension are actually salt sensitive. The rest can eat relatively normal amounts of sodium with minimal effect on their blood pressure. So when public health guidelines say, everyone reduce sodium, they're not wrong. It's a safe blanket message. But it misses the fact that for many people, the problem is somewhere else entirely. 5. The other culprits. So if salt isn't the whole story, what else is going on? Let's run through the big ones. Insulin resistance and metabolic health. When your cells become resistant to insulin, often driven by excess body fat, inactivity, and a diet high in refined carbohydrates. Your body compensates by producing more insulin, and high insulin levels tell your kidneys to retain more sodium. They also cause your sympathetic nervous system, your fight-or-flight response, to become chronically activated, constricting blood vessels and raising heart rate. This connection between metabolic syndrome and hypertension is so strong that researchers sometimes call high blood pressure a metabolic disease as much as a cardiovascular one. Chronic stress and the nervous system. Stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline directly raise blood pressure in the short term. In people under chronic stress, these systems can become semi-permanently activated, keeping blood vessels tighter and hearts beating harder, day and night. Sleep. Poor sleep, and especially sleep apnea, is a major and often overlooked driver of hypertension. During apnea episodes, oxygen drops, triggering stress responses that spike blood pressure repeatedly throughout the night. Studies show that treating sleep apnea alone can lower blood pressure meaningfully in some patients. Potassium and magnesium deficiency. Here's an ironic twist. The problem for many people isn't just that they eat too much sodium. It's that they eat too little potassium and magnesium. These minerals counterbalance sodium's effects, helping blood vessels relax. The typical modern diet, heavy on processed food, light on vegetables, is sodium-rich and potassium-poor. That imbalance matters more than sodium alone. Arterial stiffness. As we age, our arteries become stiffer, less able to flex with each heartbeat. This is a major driver of age-related hypertension, and it has little to do with how much salt you eat. It's driven by inflammation, oxidative stress, loss of arterial elasticity, and chronic disease. 6. So where does salt actually fit? Okay, so after all of this, does sodium matter at all? Yes, it does. And it's important to be clear about that. For people who are salt sensitive, which includes many older adults, Black Americans who have higher rates of salt sensitivity, people with kidney disease, and people with diabetes, reducing sodium intake is a genuinely effective intervention. The famous DASH diet study showed that reducing sodium, especially when combined with eating more fruits, vegetables, and whole grains, produced meaningful reductions in blood pressure. That's real evidence. And on a population level, since it's hard to know who is and isn't salt sensitive, recommending moderate sodium intake is still reasonable public health advice. The average person in many countries eats well above the recommended limit. But here's the problem with the current messaging. It has convinced people that if they just watch their salt intake, they've done their job. Meanwhile, they're eating ultra-processed food loaded with refined carbs, not sleeping enough, not exercising, gaining visceral fat, all of which are driving their blood pressure in ways that dwarf the effect of a pinch of salt on their eggs. 7. Conclusion and call to action. High blood pressure is one of the leading risk factors for heart attack, stroke, and kidney disease. Kills people. So the stakes here are real. But the science tells us it is not a simple, single-cause disease. Your blood pressure is the end result of your kidneys, your hormones, your blood vessels, your nervous system, your sleep, your metabolic health, your stress levels, your genetics, your age, and yes, your diet. All of it together. If you or someone you love has high blood pressure, the most important thing you can do is work with a doctor to understand which factors are driving it. For some people, reducing sodium will make a real difference. For others, addressing insulin resistance, improving sleep, managing stress, or getting on the right medication will do far more. The salt story isn't a lie exactly. It's just dangerously incomplete. And in medicine, incomplete stories cost lives. If this video helped you see the bigger picture, share it with someone who thinks hypertension is just about the salt shaker. And if you want to go deeper, I've linked the key studies below. Subscribe for more reveals.